Hello friends, this is an image of organ graft rejection. This is a transplanted kidney. The kidney has been transplanted to the patient from the donor, and after a few times the kidney shows the immune reaction and kidney has been rejected by the host immune system. So this is known as graft versus host disease, that is GVHD, graft versus host disease. So the question is whether this type of rejection, graft versus host disease, can be prevented. So the answer is yes. Appropriate use of immunosuppression drugs prevents the graft versus host disease, that is GVHD, to the several extent. So dear friends, today's topic is immunosuppression drugs. The drugs that modulate immune system either by suppression or stimulation are called immunomodulators. Based on their action on immune system, whether it is suppression action or stimulant action, the immunomodulators are divided into immunosuppression drugs and immunostimulant drugs. So drugs that suppress the immunity are called immunosuppression and drugs that stimulate are called immunostimulants. Today's topic is immunosuppression drugs. Before starting immunosuppression drugs, let us take basic idea of immunity, which help us to understand the various target of immunosuppression drugs. Immunity. We have been learning the immunity from first year MBBS physiology. Currently, we are learning from the microbiology, pathology, and so on. We will learn from the various subjects of the MBBS. What is immunity? The human body has ability to resist all type of organisms or toxins that tend to damage the tissue and organs. This capability is called immunity. So it protects the host from invading pathogens and to eliminate the disease. So basically it provides the protection. It is a system that provides the protection against uh, any type of foreign pathogens. So this protection is provided by the collaborative effort of innate and adaptive immune system. So immunity is again divided into two sub-processes: the innate immunity, that is natural immunity, and adaptive or acquired immunity. So immunity divided into innate immunity and adaptive immunity. So let us see one by one. The innate immunity refers to the defense mechanism that are immediately available on exposure to pathogens, example bacteria, virus, fungi, parasite, etc. So it is a first line defense against an invading pathogen. The innate immune system responds rapidly within hours, uh, and it occurs naturally. That's why it is known as natural immunity. It consists of mechanical, biochemical, and cellular components. Mechanical components include skin, mucosa. Biochemical components include complement system, various enzymatic system including lysozyme, hydrolysis, etc. and various cytokines including interferons. The cellular components include neutrophils, monocyte, macrophage, natural killer cell, and natural killer T cell. Unlike adaptive immunity, the innate immune response exists prior to infection, so it occurs naturally, and this innate immunity is not enhanced by repeated infection. Unlike adaptive immunity is enhanced by repeated infection, whereas innate immunity is not enhanced by the repeated infection. And it is generally not antigen specific. Adaptive immunity is antigen specific, but innate immunity is not antigen specific. So unlike adaptive immunity, the innate immunity exists prior to infection, is not enhanced by the repeated infection, and is generally not antigen specific. The second arm of the immunity is adaptive immunity. Adaptive immunity is the arm of immune response that changes or adapts itself with each new infection, and it mobilizes by cues from the innate response when the innate processes are incapable of coping with an infection. So whenever a person is exposed to any pathogen or foreign body first time, the first immune response is innate immune response. But whenever the innate immune response is failed to coping with an infection, the body respond to this pathogen by the adaptive immune response. The adaptive immune response usually occur within the days. So unlike the innate immune response, it is immediate response, and this is slight delay response as compared to the innate immunity. The characteristics of the adaptive immunity are the antigen specificity and immunological memory. The first characteristic is antigen specificity. Unlike innate immunity, adaptive immunity responds to variety of the antigen, each in specific manner. Means adaptive immunity is antigen specific. Second is it responds to previously encountered antigen in a learned way by initiating a memory response. Means respond to previous infection by immunological memory by the memory cells, immunological memory cells. So whenever patient is exposed to foreign body or the pathogens, the first response is innate response. But along with innate response, adaptive immunity is responding in specific way to generate the immunological memory. So which helps to protect the host from the reinfection with that particular pathogen. That is known as immunological memory. The cells of the adaptive immunity are B cell and T cell. The adaptive immunity is effort of production of antibody with effector, production of antibody which is a effector of humoral immunity, and activation of T lymphocytes which are the effector of the cell mediated immunity. So adaptive immunity is a combination of both humoral as well as cell mediated immunity. Humoral immunity means production of antibody against specific antigen or specific pathogen from the B cell or plasma cells, along with the activation of T lymphocyte which are the effector of the cell mediated immunity. So it is a culminative effort of the humoral and cell mediated immunity. Now let us see how does the adaptive immunity active or induce, how adaptive immunity is activated. Let me brief about this image. This is antigen presenting cell, this is CD4 cell, how antigen presenting cell is engaged with the CD4 T cell. This purple color is MSC complex, green color is antigen peptide. Induction or activation of specific adaptive immunity requires the participation of the antigen presenting cell, that is APC, which are macrophage, dendritic cell and B lymphocyte. APC plays pivotal role in the induction of an adaptive immunity. First, they phagocytize the antigen and enzymatically digest them to generate the small peptide, which are then loaded on the class 1 or class 2 MSC protein and presented to the cell surface T cell receptor. This is a TCR, T cell receptor. The MSC with peptide is known as MSC peptide complex is presented to the T cell receptor. CD8 cells recognize the class 1 MSC peptide complex and CD4 T cells recognize the class 2 MSC peptide complex. In this case, this MSC is class 2 MSC peptide complex. At least two signals are necessary for the activation of T cell. This is an exaggerated image of this engagement of APC with the T cell. For the activation of the T cell, at least two signals from the APCs are required. The first signal is engagement of the MSC peptide complex with the T cell receptor. Second signal is binding of co-stimulatory molecule B71 or B72. B71 is CD80 and B72 is CD86 of APC to their respective ligand on the T cell. On the T cell, respective ligand is CD28. So second important signal is binding of CD80, that is B71, or binding of CD86, that is B72 with CD28 of the T cell. In the absence of this second signal, T cell becomes unresponsive and undergoes apoptosis. So I repeat, the APC first phagocytize the antigen and presented on the phagocytize the antigen and enzymatically digest and generate the small peptide which is loaded on the MSC complex, and this MSC peptide complex is presented to the T cell receptor of the T cell. So this is first important signal, binding of MSC peptide complex with the T cell receptor, and second important signal is binding of the B71 or B72 with their respective ligand on the T cell, that is CD28. This is a similar diagram as shown in previous slide. This is an antigen presenting cell. On antigen presenting cell, there is MSC peptide complex which is presented to the T cell receptor of the T cell. So this is a T cell receptor. T cell activation requires engagement of T cell receptor by the MSC peptide complex. This is signal number 1. And binding of co-stimulatory molecules CD80, 86 on the APC to the CD28 of the T cell. So this is signal number 2. So we have seen at least two signals are required for the activation of T lymphocyte, signal 1 and signal 2. This activation of T lymphocyte is strengthened by the interaction of the CD40 to CD40L, ICAM1 to LFA1 and LFA3 to CD2. So these are the strengthening molecules or strengthening interaction apart from signal 1 and signal 2. The activation of T cell is regulated by the negative feedback loop involving another molecule known as T lymphocyte associated antigen 4, CTLA4, T lymphocyte associated antigen 4. Following the engagement of CD28 with CD80 or CD86, the CTLA4 of the cytoplasm mobilized to cell surface of the T cell, and this CTLA4 competes with the CD28 for binding on the CD80 and 86. CTLA4 has higher affinity for CD80 and 86. If the CD28 is already binds with the 80 and 86, CTLA4 displays the CD28 from the CD80 and 86. So CTLA4 inhibit the binding of CD28 with the CD80 and 86, and thereby it suppresses the activation of T cell and proliferation of T cell. So CTLA4 is involving in the negative feedback of the T cell activation. It inhibits the binding of CD28 with the CD80 and 86. So in short, CTLA4 blocks the signal 2. So by blocking the CTLA4 by specific monoclonal antibody, so CTLA4 doesn't interfere with this signal 2. So by blocking this CTLA4 with specific monoclonal antibody, the state of T cell activated state of the T cell is sustained. Another molecule, that is program cell death protein 1, program cell death protein 1, involved in the negative regulation of the T cell. The binding of the PD1 molecule with the PDL1 or L2 suppress the T cell activity. So this interaction of PD1, program cell death molecule 1 with the PDL1 or PDL2 inhibit the activation of the T cell. So by the similar way of blocking CTLA4, blocking of the PD1 with specific monoclonal antibody inhibit the interaction of PD1 with the PDL1 or L2 so that activated state of the T cell is sustained. So to sustain the T cell activation, blockage of CTLA4 and blockage of PD1 is required. So this CTLA4 and PD1 is involved in the negative feedback regulation of the T cell activation. Now let us see the subsets of the T cell involved in the adaptive immunity. Important subsets, two important subsets are CD4 cell and CD8 cell. CD4 cell recognize the MSC class 2 peptide complex on the APC, whereas the CD8 cell recognize the MSC class 1 peptide complex on the APC. So there is a difference in recognition of the MSC class by CD4 and CD8 cell. I repeat with a great respect, CD4 cell recognize the MSC class 2 peptide complex on APC, whereas CD8 T cell recognize the MSC class 1 peptide complex on the APC. CD4 cell is also known as helper cell, helper T cell. There are various subtypes of the helper cell. The first is T helper cell 1, TH1. On activation of the TH1 releases interleukin 2, tumor necrosis factor beta and interferon gamma, and this cell is involved in the cell mediated immunity. Another type is TH2, which releases interleukin 4 in 5, 6 and 13, and it involved in the humoral immunity for the activation of the B cell, proliferation and differentiation of the B cell into the plasma cell and memory cell, and to synthesize the specific antibody. Two important subsets are also there. TH17, which is important in the leukocyte recruitment to the site of bacterial and fungal infection. TH17 cells also contribute to the pathogenesis of autoimmune disease such as psoriasis, inflammatory bowel disease, rheumatoid arthritis and multiple sclerosis. The regulatory T cells are essential for the preventing autoimmunity and allergic response. CD8 cell involved in the cell mediated immunity. CD4 cell involved in the both cell mediated and humoral immunity, whereas CD8 cell only involved in the cell mediated immunity. Important key points of this slide is CD4 cell recognize the MSC class 2 peptide complex, whereas CD8 cell recognize the MSC class 1 peptide complex. Up to this, we have seen that the adaptive immune system is collaborative effort of cell-mediated immunity and humoral immunity. So, adaptive immune system having two arms, cell-mediated immunity and humoral immunity. And we have also seen that how adaptive immune system is induced or activated by the antigen presenting cell through the MSC peptide complex. Now, this is a schematic diagram of cellular interaction or cellular cascade during the generation or induction or activation of cell-mediated immunity and humoral immunity, which are the two arms of the adaptive immune system. Whenever host is exposed to any type of foreign particle or antigen, antigen presenting cell, it may be macrophage, dendritic cell or B cell, phagocytize this antigen and digest this antigen into the small antigenic peptide which is then loaded on the MSC complex. And this MSC peptide complex is presented on the T cell. And we have also discussed that the CD4 T cell recognizes MSC class 2 peptide complex, whereas CD8 cell recognizes MSC class 1 peptide complex. So this is the first step of the activation of T lymphocyte, engagement of the antigen presenting cell to the T cell by the binding of the MSC peptide complex with the T cell receptor. And also post-stimulatory signal 2 is also required for the activation T cell, we have discussed in previous slide. So the engagement of antigen presenting cell with the T helper cell. So after completing signal 1 and signal 2, TH cell activated. TH cell is activated, and this activated TH cell is differentiated into the TH1 cell and TH2 cell. TH cell also secrete the interleukin 2, which will act on the TH1 as well as on TH2. So by action of the interleukin 2 on the TH1 cell, which TH1 cell secrete the interferon gamma, tumor necrosis factor beta, and interferon gamma and tumor necrosis factor beta act on the macrophage, and macrophage become activated. It is just like the conversion of Bruce Banner to Hulk. So resting or inactivated macrophage become activated. Interferon gamma also activate the natural killer cell, which kill the virus infected cell and tumor cell, and also activate the TH1 cell also activate the cytotoxic T cell, which is CD8 cell. Activate the cytotoxic T cell, which kills the tumor cell and virus infected cell. So this is how cell-mediated immunity is induced by the exposure of antigen. Now comes to the humoral arm of the adaptive immune system. So whenever the antigen is host is exposed to antigen, the antigen is binds with the surface immunoglobulin of the B cell, and this antigen is phagocytized, digested enzymatically to generate the small antigenic peptide, which is loaded on the MSC class 2 complex. And this MSC class 2 complex is presented to the TH2 cell. Okay, and after engagement of this antigen presenting cell B cell with the TH2 cell secrete the interleukin 4 and interleukin 5, which act on the B cell, and B cell undergoes proliferation and differentiation. Proliferation means the generation of the clones. B cell is proliferated into the memory B cell, which have memory, or they recognize the previously exposed antigen. So proliferation of the B cell into the memory B cell, and differentiation of this B cell into the plasma cell, which secrete the particular specific immunoglobulin, which are specific for the exposed antigen. So this is how humoral arm of the adaptive immune system is induced. Now, what are the consequences of abnormal immune response? Inappropriate immune response leads to extensive tissue damage, that is hypersensitivity. Failure to distinguish between foreign and self antigen leads to reactivity against self antigen, that is autoimmunity. And conversely, impaired immune response leads to immunodeficiency, may cause opportunistic infections and various cancers. Now comes to the main part of the topic, that is immunosuppression drugs. The drugs that suppress the immunity are called immunosuppression drugs. There are general uses of immunosuppression drugs. They are used in prevention and treatment of the graft versus host disease, that is solid organ and bone marrow transplantation rejection. Solid organs include kidney, liver, heart, lungs. So they are used in organ rejection. It can be solid organ or bone marrow rejection. There are four types of organ rejections. These are hyperacute rejection, accelerated rejection, acute rejection, and chronic rejection. Currently, immunosuppression drugs are effective only against acute and chronic organ rejection. So, immunosuppression drugs are used in the acute and chronic rejection of solid organ and bone marrow transplantation. Second use of immunosuppression drug is they are used in autoimmune diseases. Examples are rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, myasthenia gravis, SLE, systemic lupus erythematosus, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, etc. etc. They are also used in they are also used in non-autoimmune inflammatory disease. Example is long-term resistant case of bronchial asthma. We all know that omalizumab is used in resistant case of bronchial asthma. Okay, so these are the uses of immunosuppression drugs. Now, classification of immunosuppression drugs. The classification of immunosuppression drugs is very huge. So it is my humble request to rectify by your own. First group of immunosuppression drug is immunophilin ligands. These are calcineurin inhibitors and mTOR inhibitors. Calcineurin inhibitors include cyclosporine and tacrolimus. mTOR inhibitors include sirolimus and everolimus. Second group is glucocorticoids. These are the inhibitors of leukocyte gene expression to reduce the inflammatory response. The drugs are prednisolone, methylprednisolone, so many glucocorticoids are there. In this talk of immunosuppression drugs, we are not going to discuss about the glucocorticoids. It will be discussed in detail in the section of endocrine system. Third group is anti-proliferative drugs, cytotoxic drugs. These are azathioprine, methotrexate, mycophenolate mofetil, acronomide, and cyclophosphamide. Fourth group is sphingosine 1-phosphate receptor agonist, SIPR agonist. The drug is fingolimod. Fifth group is immunosuppressant antibody. They are also known as biological agents. The immunosuppressant antibody are divided into two classes, polyclonal antibodies and monoclonal antibodies. The polyclonal antibodies are anti-lymphocyte antibodies, anti-thymocyte antibodies, and RHO or D-immunoglobulin. Monoclonal antibodies. The numbers of the monoclonal antibodies increasing day by day. So monoclonal antibodies are vast in the numbers, but few important monoclonal antibodies we are going to discuss. The first one is anti-CD52. The drug is alemtuzumab. Anti-CD3 mirumumab. TNF alpha inhibitors. The drugs are adalimumab, etanercept, and infliximab. The TNF alpha inhibitors we have already discussed in the chapter of rheumatoid arthritis. This group belongs to disease modifying anti-rheumatoid drugs, DMARDs. So we are not going to discuss this group in detail in this lecture. Anti-interleukin 2 receptor antibody, that is anti-CD25. The drug is daclizumab and basiliximab. Anti-CD2 antibody, the drug is alifacept. Anti-CD80 or 86 antibody, the drug is abatacept. Anti-IgE antibody, the drug is omalizumab. We have discussed in the chapter of bronchial asthma. Interleukin 1 inhibitor, the drug is anakinra, etc. The number is increasing day by day. So this is all about the classification of the immunosuppression drugs. The first group of the immunosuppressant is immunophilin ligands. Immunophilin ligands include calcineurin inhibitors and mTOR inhibitors. The calcineurin inhibitors, these are the specific T cell inhibitors. Specific T cell means they are specifically inhibit the CD4 cell. So they are known as T cell or CD4 cell inhibitors. The drugs are cyclosporine and tacrolimus. Tacrolimus is around 100 times more potent as compared to cyclosporine. Now comes to the mechanism of action of calcineurin inhibitors. Before going to the mechanism, let us revise the how cell-mediated immunity is induced. The important mediator for the proliferation and activation of various T cells, especially CD4 cell, require important uh, interleukin, that is interleukin 2. Interleukin 2 is important cytokine for the induction of the cell-mediated immunity. As we seen in previous slides, how the cell-mediated immunity is induced. After presentation of the antigen uh, on the MHC complex on the of the APC to the T cell become activated, and this activated T cell uh, uh, differentiated into the Th1 and Th2 cell, and also this activated Th cell releases the interleukin 2, and this interleukin 2 is causes stimulation of Th1 and Th2 cell. So interleukin 2 is important mediator for the further activation of the cell mediated as well as humoral immunity. So let us come to the mechanism of action of the calcineurin. As we seen in previous slide, APC is engaged with the T cell, and the APC is engaged with the T cell by using MHC peptide complex, and T cell become activated. And after activation of T cell, there is increase in intracellular calcium level within the T cell by using an IP38 pathway. And this calcium is combined with the calmodulin and form the calcium calmodulin complex. This complex is very important. This complex will bind with the calcineurin, and this calcineurin having phosphatase activity, which dephosphorylate the NF80, that is nuclear factor of activated T cell, and permit the entry of NF80 into the nucleus, and this NF80 is responsible for the genetic transcription of the interleukin 2. So calcineurin increases the expression of interleukin 2 using NF80, and as we know, interleukin 2 is important factor for the proliferation and differentiation of the T cell. So interleukin 2 from the activated T cell will lead to proliferation and differentiation of the T cell, which are the important part of the adaptive immune system. Now comes to the calcineurin inhibitors. The cyclosporine triangle represents the cyclosporine. It will bind with the immunophilin ligand. Here immunophilin ligand is cyclophilin. So cyclosporine is binds with the immunophilin ligand cyclophilin. This square is cyclophilin, and this binding of cyclosporine with the immunophilin ligand cyclophilin forms the cyclosporine cyclophilin complex. So the triangle and square, this complex is cyclosporine and cyclophilin complex, and this drug and cyclophilin ligand complex inhibit binds with the calcineurin and inhibit the calcineurin phosphatase activity, so that NF80 will not dephosphorylate and not impede the entry of NF80 within the nucleus. So these cyclosporine drugs make the complex with the cyclophilin, and this complex inhibit the calcineurin. So by inhibiting the calcineurin, decrease in interleukin-2 production, and thereby inhibit the T cell proliferation and differentiation, and thereby inhibiting the induction of adaptive immune system. Now comes to the mechanism of tacrolimus. Tacrolimus is again binds with the immunophilin ligand. For the tacrolimus, immunophilin ligand is FKBP, FK binding protein. So tacrolimus is binds with the FKBP and forms the tacrolimus FKBP complex. And similar to the cyclosporin, this complex inhibits the calcineurin so that it impairs the entry of NFBT in the nucleus and decrease the expression of interleukin 2. So, in short, the mechanism of action of the calcineurin inhibitors, including cyclosporin and tacrolimus, they by inhibiting the calcineurin, they decrease the synthesis or expression of interleukin 2 from the activated T cell, and thereby decrease the proliferation and differentiation of the T cell and impair the adaptive immune system. Now comes to the pharmacokinetic of cyclosporin and tacrolimus. The half-life of cyclosporin is biphasic, 4 to 6 hours and 12 to 18 hours, and tacrolimus having half-life of 12 hours. The both drugs can be given IV or orally, and both are metabolized by CYP3A4 enzyme. And these metabolites of these two drugs are excreted primarily through bile into the feces. Two drugs are metabolized by CYP3A4 drugs, so there are increasing chance in the multiple drug interaction. So enzyme inducer as well as enzyme inhibitor of this CYP3A4 shows the drug-drug interaction with the cyclosporin and tacrolimus. Adverse drug reaction of the calcineurin inhibitors. The important and common adverse effects for the both cyclosporin and tacrolimus, the adverse effects are nephrotoxicity, which is a major limitation of these two drugs. Neurotoxicity include tremor, seizure, and motor disturbance. Sustained rise in blood pressure, hypertension, and hyperkalemia. Hirsutism, gum hyperplasia, hyperlipidemia, and hyperuricemia are more common with the cyclosporin as compared to tacrolimus. Hyperlipidemia and hyperuricemia are very less common in the case of tacrolimus. Impaired glucose tolerance uh, may precipitate the diabetes mellitus and worsen the diabetes mellitus, which is more common, uh, which is more commonly seen with the tacrolimus as compared to cyclosporin. And as we know that uh, immunosuppression impair the immunity of the host or the patient. So by impair the immunity, there are more chances of the developing opportunistic infection and secondary malignancy. So secondary malignancy and opportunistic infection are common side effects for the all immunosuppression drugs. So this is about the adverse drug reaction of the calcineurin inhibitors. The important side effects are nephrotoxicity, neurotoxicity, hypertension, hyperkalemia, hirsutism, hyperplasia, hyperlipidemia, hyperuricemia, and impaired glucose tolerance. Tacrolimus shows the alopecia and diarrhea. Hirsutism is more common in cyclosporin, but tacrolimus shows alopecia and diarrhea if it is used along with the mycophenolate. So this is the ADR of the calcineurin inhibitors. Now therapeutic uses of calcineurin inhibitors. Both drugs are used in prevention and treatment of the graft versus host disease. They are used in autoimmune disorders such as uveitis, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, and asthma. Tacrolimus is used as topically in the form of ointment for the atopic dermatitis as well as psoriasis. Tacrolimus eye ointment can also be used for the giant papillae development in the uh, allergic conjunctivitis, especially spring catarrh. Now, second group for the immunophilin ligands is mTOR inhibitors. The drugs are sirolimus and everolimus. The mTOR full form of the mTOR is mammalian target of rapamycin. Now let us see the mechanism of action of the mTOR inhibitors. Now mechanism of action of mTOR inhibitors, sirolimus and everolimus. The mTOR inhibitors, they act at the later stage than the cyclosporine and tacrolimus. As we know that interleukin 2 is synthesized from the activated T cell, and this interleukin 2 is responsible for the proliferation and differentiation of the various subsets of the T cell. So interleukin 2, which is synthesized from the activated T cell, act on the interleukin 2 on the various subsets of the T cell, and this activation binding of interleukin 2 on the interleukin 2 receptor generate the signal cascade, and this signal cascade activate the mTOR, and this mTOR is responsible for the uh, uh, increase in the transcription of mRNAs that promote the transition of the cell cycle from G1 to S phase. So mTOR is important for the progression of cell cycle from G1 to S phase. Now the mTOR inhibitors like sirolimus and the everolimus, uh, unlike tacrolimus, they binds with the FKBP proteins, but they do not inhibit the calcineurin. After binding of the sirolimus or everolimus with FK binding protein, this drug FKBP complex inhibit the mTOR, and inhibiting mTOR, there is no increase in transcription of mRNA that promote the cell cycle progression from G1 to S phase. So there is arrest of cell cycle in the G1 phase. So the cell become arrested in the G1 phase. So there is a inhibition of T cell differentiation and proliferation. So these drugs act at the later stage uh, as compared to the cyclosporine. They inhibit the mTOR, and by inhibiting mTOR, they arrest the cell cycle uh, in the G1 phase, and thereby it inhibit the T cell proliferation and differentiation, and thereby inhibiting uh, adaptive immune system. Adverse effect of the sirolimus. Important and specific side effect of the sirolimus is myelosuppression, which include anemia, leukopenia, and thrombocytopenia. Other side effects are hepatotoxicity, diarrhea, and dose-dependent increase in cholesterol and triglyceride level. Lymphocyl is a surgical complication of the renal transplantation is increased with the use of sirolimus. As mTOR inhibitors are anti-proliferative drugs, they delay the healing of the wound. Therapeutic uses of sirolimus, apart from the prevention of the rejection of solid organ allograft, sirolimus can be used topically for the certain dermatological disorder, and sirolimus in combination of cyclosporine is used in uveitis. The sirolimus eluting coronary stents reduces the restenosis and additional adverse cardiac events in the coronary artery disease. So sirolimus eluting coronary stents are used in the uh, coronary artery disease. Everolimus. Pharmacological profile of the everolimus is similar to sirolimus but has distinct pharmacokinetic property, which include better absorb orally and shorter half-life. Uses of everolimus, apart from the prevention of the kidney and liver transplant rejection, everolimus is approved for the astrocytoma, breast cancer, pancreatic neuroendocrine tumor, renal angiomyolipoma, and renal cell cancer. So up to this we have discussed the what is immunity, types of immunity including innate immunity and adaptive immunity, how adaptive immunity is induced, and cellular interaction for the generation or induction of the cell mediated and humoral immunity. After that we enumerated the classification of the immunosuppression drugs, and we have discussed one group of the immunosuppression drugs, that is immunophilin ligands, including calcineurin inhibitors and mTOR inhibitors. In the immunosuppression drugs part 2, we will discuss the rest of the drugs. So let us end with the today's session, immunosuppression part 1. Thank you.